The woman on the phone said she was calling to arrange my father's funeral arrangements with his wife, but my mom was standing right next to me. "I'm sorry," I said, gripping the phone tighter. "There must be some mistake. My father died 3 days ago, and my mother is his wife." The silence on the other end stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Then she whispered, "Honey, I think we need to talk. My name is Sarah, and until that Tuesday morning in March 2023, I thought I knew everything about my family. My dad, Robert Chen, was a traveling pharmaceutical sales rep who spent 2 weeks every month on the road. He'd been doing it for as long as I could remember, 23 years to be exact. Mom would joke that she was practically a single parent, but Dad always made up for it when he came home with stories from the road and little gifts from whatever city he'd visited. I was 25, fresh out of graduate school, and had just moved back home to help Mom plan Dad's funeral. He'd died suddenly of a heart attack while on what we thought was a business trip to Phoenix. The hotel had called us, and we'd arranged to have his body flown back to our home in Minneapolis. Everything seemed normal, if you can call planning your father's funeral normal. Then came that phone call. The woman's voice was shaky, like she'd been crying. She said her name was Linda Chen, yes, Chen, same last name, and that she was calling all the funeral homes in Minneapolis because she couldn't find where her husband's service was being held. My blood went cold. I told her to hold on and walked into the kitchen where Mom was making coffee, the phone still pressed to my ear. "Mom," I whispered, covering the mouthpiece. "There's a woman on the phone who says Dad was her husband." The coffee mug slipped from my mother's hands and shattered on the kitchen tile. I got back on the phone, my heart hammering. "Ma'am," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding. My father, Robert Chen, died of a heart attack in Phoenix 3 days ago. We're his family." She made a sound that was half sob, half gasp. "Sarah?" she said. "Oh my God, you're Sarah. Bobby talked about you all the time." Bobby. Only one person had ever called my dad Bobby, and that was his sister who died when I was 10. Linda started talking faster, words tumbling over each other. She said Dad, her Bobby, had told her all about his daughter Sarah, who was getting her master's degree in psychology. How proud he was when I graduated. How I looked just like my mother Patricia. But then she said something that made the room spin. She said Bobby had been married to her for 18 years. That they lived in Tucson. That they had 2 kids together, Michael, 16, and Emma, 14. I sank into a kitchen chair, my legs giving out. Mom was staring at me, her face white as paper. "What is she saying?" Mom whispered. I couldn't speak. Linda was still talking, saying how Bobby traveled for work 2 weeks every month, always to the same territory, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa. How he'd light up when he came home with stories about the cold weather and the nice people up north. How he always said his work family up there was like his second family. Work family. Second family. The words hit like a physical blow. I found my voice. "Linda," I said, "how long did you say you've been married?" 18 years this June, she replied. We had our anniversary dinner planned for when he got back from his Minnesota trip. My parents had been married for 26 years. The math was making me sick. I told Linda I needed to call her back. I took down her number with shaking hands and hung up. Mom was crying now, quiet tears streaming down her face. "That's impossible," she kept saying. "That's impossible, Sarah." But it wasn't impossible. It was all starting to make horrible sense. Dad's meticulous travel schedule. 2 weeks gone, 2 weeks home, like clockwork for over 20 years. How he never varied his route, always the same territory. How he'd gotten angry the one time Mom suggested coming with him on a trip, saying it would be too boring for her. How he always paid the bills and handled all the travel arrangements himself. I spent the next hour researching everything I could find. I found Linda Chen on social media. There she was, a pretty woman with graying hair and Dad's smile in family photos. Photos with Dad. Recent photos. Christmas morning 2022. A birthday party that looked like it was from last summer. And the kids, Michael and Emma, who both had Dad's distinctive nose and his laugh in the videos Linda had posted. There was an entire life there. 18 years of birthdays, holidays, school plays, family vacations. All with my father. All happening while we thought he was selling pharmaceuticals in hotel conference rooms. The most devastating part? The kids had no idea about us either. In one video from Emma's school volleyball game, she introduces the camera to my dad as the best daddy in the world who never misses my games. Never misses her games. He'd missed half of mine because of his work schedule. When I called Linda back, we both cried. Not angry tears, not yet, just the tears of two families whose entire reality had been shattered in one phone call. She told me about Bobby's daily life in Tucson. How he coached Michael's baseball team. How he taught Emma to drive. How he grilled burgers every Sunday and complained about the Arizona heat but refused to move because this was where his family was. Family. He'd called both of us his family. The funeral became a nightmare neither of us had prepared for. Linda flew to Minneapolis with Michael and Emma, and we met for the first time in the funeral home parking lot. The kids looked like smaller versions of my dad, and seeing them was like looking at alternate universe versions of myself at their ages. Mom handled it with more grace than I could have imagined. She hugged Linda, and they both sobbed. "I'm so sorry," Mom kept saying. "I'm so sorry you're going through this too." That's when I realized something important: Linda wasn't the enemy. She'd been lied to just as much as we had. We held the service together. Both families, sitting in the same church, mourning the same man who had somehow loved us all while lying to everyone. Linda's kids, my half-siblings, a phrase I was still getting used to, asked if they could sit with me. Michael looked exactly like Dad had at 16 in old photos Mom showed me later. After the service, we all went to dinner. It was surreal, 2 widows and 3 kids trying to piece together a man who had lived as 2 completely different people. We shared stories, and slowly, a fuller picture of Dad emerged. He wasn't a monster. He was a man who had somehow gotten caught between 2 lives and spent 20 years maintaining both rather than choosing one. Linda found a letter in Dad's things when she got home. He'd written it but never sent it, dated just a month before he died. In it, he talked about planning to tell both families the truth. About how the guilt was eating him alive. About how he loved everyone too much to hurt them, but knew he was hurting everyone by living the lie. It's been 8 months now. Linda and I talk every week. The kids are slowly getting to know each other. Michael's teaching me to play guitar over video calls, and Emma's been helping me understand Dad's weird sense of humor that apparently we both inherited. Mom's in therapy, working through decades of a marriage that was both completely real and completely fake at the same time. I'm in therapy too, trying to figure out who I am when half of my family history was a secret. But we're all figuring it out together now. The strangest part? We're closer than we ever were when Dad was alive. His death revealed the lie, but it also revealed that love, real, genuine love, had existed in both families all along. Just because it was built on a foundation of deception doesn't mean the love itself wasn't real. We're planning to spend Christmas together this year, all of us. Mom's idea, actually. She said Dad would have wanted his family to be together, and now that we know we're all his family, that's exactly what we're going to be. If you're watching this and thinking about the secrets in your own family, I want you to know the truth has a way of coming out eventually. Sometimes it comes out in the most shocking way possible, like a phone call that changes everything you thought you knew about your life. But here's what I learned: families aren't just about blood or marriage certificates or shared last names. They're about the people who choose to love each other, even when everything falls apart. Especially then. Thanks for listening to my story. If this resonated with you, please share it. You never know who needs to hear that they're not alone in navigating family secrets. And remember, the most complicated families are often the strongest ones, once everyone stops pretending and starts being real with each other.